$10 Frappuccino.
Oops, sorry, I'm going to record this because this is interesting. Go on. We're talking
Oh,
about law of
let's go for it.
attraction. Yeah.
Oh, fascinating. So, first of all, we're talking about law of attraction in relation to money. And what you probably hear is, I want to be rich, whatever. But what the law of attraction does is it actually specifies specific actions that your brain starts thinking about. So, you thinking that, oh, I put it to the universe gives back to me. Not quite, because now you're thinking, do I buy that $10 Frappuccino? You're thinking, no, I'll save that money. Oh, I found an investment opportunity. Do I now weigh the risk up, or do I spend the money on a new car, which will
Yeah.
depreciate? Your brain starts thinking in a different way. And then what you find is it also opens opportunity. Like, I'll give you an example, and relating back to the comic journey.
Yeah.
When I first wanted to write, and you're talking close to 10 years ago when I procrastinated like crazy. I'll be deadly honest with you. Is I got these story ideas, and like they said, ideas are a dime a dozen. Everybody's got them. So you got all these story ideas, but from my headspace is I never did anything about it. And it was always, yeah, I'll get around to it, get around to it. Um, then I decided, you know what? Stuff this. I want to write. I want to create. And I think I mentioned it to my wife at the time.
Yeah.
This is something I need to do before it's too late. Even that simple act of telling somebody, this is important to me, it now focuses you to go, oh gosh, I'll have to do
Where,
something
where,
about
where
it.
are the opportunities? You start
Correct.
thinking that way.
And then suddenly I'm in different artist groups. Like I do a bit of life drawing, but my art, it's way too slow and it's nowhere close to where I need it to be. I think I've showed you some of my art. It's nowhere where it needs to be. Yours is just so much better than mine.
It's not
But
a
what happens
competition,
is,
man. It's not a competition.
I know. But look,
Yeah.
to be fair, my passion, look, I did a lot of life drawing classes, and I really enjoy life drawing because I do enjoy seeing human anatomy, as a quick aside. But what it then did was suddenly I was talking to artists, I was talking to people like you, and what you tend to do is if you want something, you kind of find it. And once you start the ball rolling and you start getting once I got the first script out, um, suddenly I found an agent, I found this. And
Mm.
it was just to be fair, not everything panned out. And I'll be honest with you as well. Yeah, you guys all know this. I've got more rejections than I would say a normal person should ever have to deal with. And I say with you, I'm assuming we've got that email stack of sorry, but no, thank you. Sorry, but out of all that, you get that one yes, and suddenly the 10 no's or the 15 no's become irrelevant. But what happens is if you never ever start it and you never actually say, this is what I want, and actually declare it, nothing happens. And
Nothing.
I think with human nature, there's an inertia
Mm.
that as soon as you get past that first step and you say, this is important to me, that's where it moves on. And I think that's really important. I don't know how your journey has been as well.
Yeah.
Has it been similar to that? That's that first step that you have to go,
Yeah.
I need to do this. And once you've done it, it moves on.
For sure, man. Well, look, that's a great introduction. I absolutely love it, Stephen. One thing about you is you've always been positive, and every time I've interacted with you, it's always been positive. This is you're the first video in the business of art and creation,
Yeah.
writing, art, fantasy art, fine art, all the cool creative stuff. I'm doing a series of business videos, and I'm so excited to welcome on Stephen Koch. I don't know how you want to pronounce your name, but
Oh, that's fine.
yeah,
Look, long story short, it was a Chinese name that got, it depends what dialect of Chinese you go into as well. But what you said is fine.
yeah, cool. So, yeah, Stephen's part of it. He's an amazing. I'll introduce. He can introduce himself, but he's an amazing letterer, comic book creator, creating lots of universes. Um, I know this sounds very clickbaity, but I think he's raised maybe over 100 grand or 150 grand on Kickstarter. I don't know. You can tell me the number, but it's a crazy number. He's won awards, multiple comic book awards, like
It's
Kickstarter.
close. It's close to about I think 250 now, I think.
Oh my
But
God.
also to be fair,
Wow.
and just want to be very clear, there are huge production costs
Yeah.
involved. So
Yeah.
um,
Of course.
I don't have a Ferrari sitting outside. I wish I could tell you this case. There's no Ferrari
Okay.
outside, and a lot of it is, and I thank, and a lot of it is where I basically thank the people who support me
Yeah.
because you allow me to tell stories,
Yeah.
and I think for me that's if you want to, and we'll go into a lot of the business aspects a little bit
Yeah. Yeah.
later, but if you don't want to tell stories, if you think this is your avenue to retire, my honest advice if you've got that mindset is, and I hate to be discouraging, but don't do it.
Yeah.
It is what you see most times is the success, the yeses. What you don't see is the no's, the setbacks, the obstacles. And again, not as a discouragement, but what I'm saying is if this isn't your passion,
Mm.
those things will wear down on you and wear
Yeah.
down pretty badly.
Yeah.
And look, I'll speak on your behalf and I'll speak a little bit on my behalf. There are days, even when you're passionate about this, there are days you're just thinking, you know what? Why the hell am I
I
doing
don't feel
this?
like painting, or I don't feel like writing, or what. Yeah,
Exactly. Why
exactly.
the hell am I doing this? Look, and to be fair, your passion will carry you across a lot of these
Yeah,
days.
yeah,
But if you don't have that passion, it just will eat away at you. So probably the first advice before you even think about this is be passionate about it. And the thing is, it's not hard. It's, do you want to do this to tell stories, to create something?
exactly.
If the answer is yes, you're sweet. But if your answer is, yeah, I heard the money is good, I would guarantee you there's a million other things you can do that will
Yeah.
earn you more money.
Well,
And
like you, I
with less
think
stress, with much less stress as
I
well.
agree. I agree. I agree. And like you, I've probably raised around about the 200,000 mark or more. But all that money on Kickstarter is not your money. It goes back to printing. It goes back to hiring other
Yeah.
creators, letterers, artists, other writers, or printing or special products. You might be silly like me and release a whole bunch of miniatures with the butts. You
Oh,
know what I mean? And all those costs add up. And it's still profitable, but at the same time you're basically, you can be comfortable as an artist, but you're going to work for that comfort. You're going to, and it's only passion that will push you forward. so,
exactly.
so tell me
And the
more
thing is,
about,
yeah,
sorry to interrupt you, but tell me
yeah.
more about what you do. You've had amazing success with comics. I love all your work. I've actually bought quite a lot of your books. I've got
And thank you for your support as well. I
That's all right.
really
No
appreciate
worries.
it.
So tell me a bit more about you. You're obviously a writer. You said you dabble in a bit of art, but
Yeah.
I know you as a great writer and letterer. But tell us, about your comics and your universe. I'd love to hear about it.
Oh, look, I just as a one quick aside, I the with the part with what MCU is doing and what you're seeing is a lot of people talking about the shared universe thing. And what I tend to focus on when I first start, and I'll caveat, a lot of my books start as single stories. So in most cases, if you get volume one, it is a self-contained story. Um, for example, one of my steampunk fantasy adventure, Wordsmith, was just the concept about what if you could manifest words, and each of those words actually triggers an emotion.
Mhm.
The usual concept would be the word family, or family is very, very different to different people. And you could tell a story about how the word family affects different people differently. So that was the word problem for Wordsmith, actually. And so the first part of Wordsmith was itself a self-contained story. And then what tends to happen is if I feel that that series has legs, then I would love to continue to tell different stories. So for me, it's been very fortunate that most of my series, I found the passion to continue. Now, there is a particular series that I finished because I felt that it needed an ending. So
Yeah.
there's one of the stories, 5 seconds, which is basically a guy can see 5 seconds in the future. So for him, that particular story is ended. I think ended after volume three, mainly because I saw it as a definitive end, and I want stories which not that huge overarching universe concept, but very much in grounded stories. So if you go back into the usual creation process, there are three keys to every creation process. Number one is plot, characters, and the world. So for me, all three are equally important. Don't get me wrong. To tell a good story, you need all three to really hit. But for me, it's always been the story. It's always been, hey, look, what drives, and then out of the story, you get a lot of character development. You get a lot, but without the story, then I think there are a lot of great character-driven stories, but I'm very much a plot-driven story. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with either side. Like, for example, what you find is a lot of text tend to shift into. I'll use Lord of the Rings, for example. Lord of the Rings is very much a world-building story. It started out, it's very much world-building. Tolkien spent most of his time world-building. The character dynamics, character-driven stuff is actually very secondary in Tolkien. And I know there's a lot of Tolkien people who probably up in arms. That's wrong. It really is, because his characters to drive the plot is in service of the world. Just look at where the Tolkien spent all his time. He created appendices of languages and stuff like that. His focus was world building. And again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but when you're developing stories, know where your focus wants to be, and none of it's bad. It's just
I think
what drives you.
There's maybe almost a whole chapter of him describing a tree, or like the roots of a tree in the Hobbit.
Oh, look, I always give the joke that in the first Lord of the Rings, you're 100 pages into the Lord of the Rings, they haven't left the Shire yet, because they're still worried about Bilbo's party, who gets the damn cow, where the gardener is. That's 100 pages in, and they haven't left the Shire. And what he's describing isn't character stuff. It's, oh, look, so and so's cousin to so and so. It's, by the way, when you get past it and you actually enjoy it, it is very, it builds that picture of the world.
It's a different style of writing, and I realized this recently with where I'm writing outlines for the Luminous Ages series. There's two types of writers. You've got your gardener. There's different terms for it. There's the gardener and there's the architect. And I started out as a gardener when I did Luminous. And then I'm realizing I'm creating all these characters. I'm like, what's the point of this? I need to go into architect mode. And so I could have gone down the Tolkien route and gone world building, just go be creative, totally creative with it. But you need a plan at the end of the day. And a good writer is someone that can do both. You know what I mean? So you probably found that yourself. You can start off and be creative with an idea, but if you don't have some structure to it, like you don't come back and pull it back in and go, all right, this is where it's going. Like it can even be brief outlines. You can get lost in your story. You can almost go, what's the point of this character? If this character's there, why is he there? You know what I mean? Or why is she there?
Exactly.
You know? So, but sorry to interrupt, but
that's okay. No, keep going.
I think what I wanted to know is more like, I know about Wordsmith. It's a steampunk. You've got Terra Olympus. You've got there is a sci-fi element to all this. There is obviously Wordsmith is more fantasy, but you've definitely gone more down the right route of sci-fi. Now, I don't know what I think. The question here is, what do you love the most? You know what I mean? What do you actually love the most about, sci-fi, and what are your inspirations? So, you got
NASA.
five minutes.
I'm on nearly every science feed you can think of, and I love to see all the new inventions. And look, to be fair, if you follow a lot of news and stuff like that, it is horribly, horribly depressing.
Yeah,
this politician is bound to be corrupt. So and so, just not a massacre, none of this. It does wear down on you. And as much as those news are important, and I do read a lot, and I do follow. Look, I'm not really political left or right. I'm actually much more the issue. I deal a lot more with the issues level. So I think that is a good idea. It's a good idea whether you're left or right. But saying that though, the fighting and stuff, it's just so depressing. So what I do is to take me away from a real world, for example, is I love the science feeds. So it's really easy if you actually want to. A lot of Reddits have it where they show you basically all the new inventions and all the different technologies that are being developed to,
Mm.
that humanity may not be aware of.
Yeah.
A good example would be artificial chlorophyll exists already, which means we don't need trees right now to create oxygen from carbon dioxide. So
Wow.
they have that exists. That technology exists now. Um, and just all of those things as they advance through, you just thinking, wow, I love it. And space exploration has always been fun for me, especially the whole NASA. And my concept would be is that people always say, "Oh, the space program, yeah, waste of money. What's the point of sending somebody out there?" Dude, we have satellites because of it. We have all, GPS. Even Velcro was developed for the space program. Just simple things that you all take for granted. When you're advancing and what I always say is, people always say, we got all these problems. Why are you spending, money doing all this? There is nothing wrong with advancing human knowledge. There's nothing wrong with creating new things. And if you ever and that's where I think art and science actually are a lot closer aligned than you think, because you're pushing the boundaries, you're pushing the envelope, and you're finding things that, guess what? I suppose the one thing that makes me happy is when you actually get a book like yourself or you get a painting done. That did not exist
Mm.
yesterday. It did not exist. You create that book, it now exists. You've actually created something into the world that exists. Um, from a science point of view, is you've developed a technology or developed something that did not exist before. And it's very much the concept of creation. So if you actually look through both Terra Limpus, Wordsmith, and all the rest of it, I suppose the key theme that comes across everything is creation. Things that didn't exist before are now created. And I love it. And I absolutely love the aspect of it because it is very hopeful. And going back to say the steampunk genre, and I'll talk a little bit about genres and why it's important. Something like diesel punk is actually a very depressing genre. Cyberpunk is also very depressing, very dystopian. Steampunk's a very hopeful genre because it's about inventing, it's about staying, it's new. And I like those type of genres a little bit more. Saying that though, I have written some dystopian stuff. For I think Fractured Charts, I adapted someone's story there, but and again I enjoy creating. But if you want, hopeful is always the key, and that's where you're talking about science-fi because science fiction can be very very hopeful.
Yeah.
And although there are problems, on the whole, things get better, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah, it's actually really weird that you say that. Because I've got a hopeful sci-fi story in the works. I can't say what it is, but yeah, I've been writing this. I had this idea, and then I started writing outline scripts, and it's totally separate from Olympus Ages. It involves aliens, but it's really, really crazy. Look, I won't say what it is, but I actually
Oh,
have.
let's talk off air. I'm dying to know. I'll sign an NDA if you want. But
Yeah, for
I
sure. Yeah,
oh look, the other thing which I in terms of creation stories,
yeah,
I love the stuff that people the one thing I've always asked for, and when I'm in conventions, if you come up to me, I always ask for log lines because I am absolutely fascinated with the log lines people can create.
yeah,
Um, and it's fascinating that you see how people think and how people like
yeah.
it's like a story prompt, and it's amazing. And there's actually pointing back to Reddit, there's actually a whole Reddit of story prompts, and you read half of them, you're thinking, oh man, I would have taken that story this way or this way. I
Yeah.
love it. And
Yeah.
so,
But no, that's what I love about you, man. It's that positive. I like your inspiration, but I'm definitely on that same wavelength with sci-fi. I'm looking for the positive sci-fi. There's so much dark sci-fi, and I like that. Like if you want, I like it on Halloween, or I like horror, and I
yeah,
like that genre as well. And I love H.P. Lovecraft's work, not the person, but the work. At
yeah,
the end of the day, I'm on the same page with you, and science has a lot of good things. So there's also some scary stuff. We won't talk about that, but in the future, but there is hope with like, like right now I've got solar panels on my house and I don't have an electricity
Yeah.
bill. So you know what I mean? Like I'm earning money from the sun, So
I know how awesome is
that's
that.
the benefit. That's the benefit of science. You know what I mean? So, um, but yeah, yeah. So that's the great thing. So continuing on, moving on. Yeah, all this stuff is amazing. What you're saying now. Obviously, there's a few questions. I've got so many questions because you've got so much information, but I think I should narrow it down. I think the most important thing is a lot of comic book creators or writers or artists, whatever, they just don't know how to build an audience. So they don't know how to build an audience. I built mine a certain way, and I'm still building it. Um, and obviously, when you're building an audience, it's an ever continuing process. Like you might have 100 subscribers to your mailing list, and then, as you know, 30 people might pull out at the end of the month. You know what I mean? So it's something
Yep.
that you have to continually, it's like you're cycling through people, and there's people that will stay with you forever. There's people that might stay with you for 3 years, and then they get married, they have kids, and they can't afford your comics or your art anymore. I'm not upset
Yep.
about that at all. I'm just saying that it's life. Like it comes in cycles. Some people might be with you for a season. Some people might be with you for a cycle or one particular product, or some people will like might be diehard fans. As like, I love Steven's work. I want every single comic coming out of Steven's brain. You know what I mean?
I love those people. So
I love, yeah, yeah. I love, look,
absolutely love it.
I love all people, but those people kind of do make your business. I agree with they kind of give you that loyalty, keeps your art going, your writing going. So tell me, how do you build your audience? How did you start out building your audience? What tips can you give? Tell us all. Go fire,
Yeah.
fire. Tell us everything.
Look, when you're first starting, and I always say this, your family and friends are always going to be your first support. And there's nothing wrong with that, mainly because they are the people who are your support network, the people who, and what you do find is, and I was actually a bit shocked when I did my first Kickstarter, is how much they did want to support me. Like you go, you always get the on, don't want to ask or whatever. But guess what? They actually want to support you. Look, to be fair, even before I did this myself, if anybody, any of my family or friends, they open a new restaurant, they start this. I'm the I've been to all my family's different restaurants. Some have made it, some haven't. But I've gone in to buy. And the thing is, when we go in, I'm not usually the type who asks for the family and friends discount. I'm going, I'll buy this. And I usually give more, mainly because that's what you're meant to do. And what you find is your initial few will be your family and friends. But what you want to try to do is you want to try to expand beyond that. So the first thing you have to look at, and this is something that you need to be very objective on. You've created something that's new, and it's your baby. It's to you, it's absolutely wonderful. You have to look at it objectively, or you have to get a editor or a third party or somebody to look at it objectively, because what you think is absolutely wonderful might not be. And you got to understand that as well. Like, not everything that you do will be a hit. And so, what you need to do is when you look at it objectively, you can kind of start to see who it's for. So, Marketing 1011 always says two things. Number one, who's your audience and what action are you driving? So, number one, if you don't know who your audience is, you're not going to be able to market well. I'll give you the absolute classic example. Children's books. Who do you market it to? You
Well,
don't market it to kids.
no, the
You do
adults,
not market.
parents.
That's it. Understand adults. You're marketing to adults, not the kids.
Yeah.
So when you're marketing to the adults, what the adults want is something that's fun that the kids can read and have a laugh over. And most kids at that age, they love poo jokes. They love, silly animals. So the adults know, if I get this book, my kid is going to be entertained for however long the book is.
I
So you
still
have
I still love poo and fart jokes, mate. And
nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that.
That's
But
it.
understand that you're not marketing those to kids.
Yeah.
You're marketing to adults to say to the adults. And that's how come most kids' books are not inherently mean or nasty books.
Yeah.
So you got to understand, there are some really dark, horrible movies which are brilliant. Schindler's List, just as top of my head, you got all those. Understand where your audience is. If it's kids' books, don't write anything mean or horrible because parents will buy books about poo and fart. They will not buy something where it's horrible or mean or the bad guy wins
Bins.
without any redemption.
Yeah.
So the bad guys can be redeemed. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of kids' books where they're the villain, but they turned out to be good, but they will never have a villain that ends up being the
Mm.
villain and winning.
Mm.
So understand where your market is and understand who you're promoting to. Now, if you get that part initially right, the second thing of marketing is driving an action. Now, if you're showing off your wonderful work and whatever, but you're not telling them what to do, there is a gap in your marketing. So I'll give you the one example, which I absolutely love. Kickstarter has done something, I think, within the last, it actually hasn't been that long. I think only about 2 years old now, which is something called a pre-launch page.
Yeah.
Indiegogo, if you ever used that crowdfunding plan, had it forever. So Kickstarter actually took this, which I think is absolutely fantastic. So as you are building up your work and you're showing people the work in progresses, or you're talking about how wonderful your stuff is and you're trying to get people engaged, this is before you launch. You're not telling people, if you like this, please click notify on the pre-launch link. You are now saying, I'm showing you this, but this is the action I need you to do. Think of it from car ads. What are they tempting you to do? You like this car? Come for a test drive. You like Coke? Have a drink. So everything that they do in advertising and marketing needs to drive an action.
Yeah.
So if you can drive the action, that's where marketing is really powerful. Is you spend, and where I think a lot of people actually hurt themselves a lot is they show all this wonderful artwork, they show all this wonderful work in progress, and I'll click the like and stuff. Oh wow, that looks awesome! Like gorgeous work or whatever. But you haven't asked me to do anything. If you understand the gap, you showed me all your wonderful work, but what have you asked me to do? And what you find is most of the time they haven't asked you to do anything. And that's a big flaw in how you market. You have to drive an action. Visit my website, buy this book, click notify on pre-launch, whatever it is.
Join my mailing list, all that sort of
Join
stuff.
my mailing list. Exactly. But I don't know if you, from what I see, is you see a lot of people posting up all these wonderful things without an action. And I think, and then you ask down the track, oh, how come I don't have a list or I don't have this? Did you tell them to join the list? No. Did you tell them to click notify? No. How do they know?
That's it.
And
I think also with creative people, there's this introvert nature, like it's just strange where people go, oh well, if I keep on posting on Facebook about my art or whatever, it's going to annoy people, right? The reality is,
no, I
honestly,
think it's the reverse.
I
I
think
love it.
that's
I
it.
love to see stuff.
Yeah, well, we're rare creatures, but the reality is, what artists need to understand is that the algorithm, only 1% on or 2% on Facebook will actually see your post or wherever it is. And so you need to, even if you change it up, you might go, all right, I'm going to show this page of my comic, or I'm going to show this stage of the painting, or I'm going to show, and it's nothing wrong with promoting it and going, hey, this is what I'm doing, because you got to change your mindset. Like, I get to show people my work, but you got to show them with a call to action. Like, you might say,
Yep.
hey, look at this painting. We're at this stage of the painting, or this stage of the comic, or on Kickstarter, and you can follow the project. Or if you back now, we're going to give away a bonus free comic, or we're going to, we've hit 300 subscribers to the comic or to the Kickstarter. We're going to unlock a free sticker, whatever it is. But the reality is, people almost feel guilty or ashamed to share the project when they should be. Coca-Cola's not ashamed to advertise every day.
Exactly.
McDonald's isn't. All these big corporations do it. And yes, look, if people find you annoying, they're not your audience. But if people understand
Exactly.
that you're a creator, you're an independent, you're an artist, and this is your only way to promote Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is, people will understand. People that are your true fans and your true supporters, or people that might be interested in your work, they're
Yep.
going to come on board. And like you say, like, a call to action is important. Having that
Oh,
call to
100%.
action, you know.
100%.
So I
The
agree.
other thing, the other thing that I think a lot of creators do miss, especially we're talking, say, the comic space a little, in particular, is understanding exactly what the genre is. Sorry, not the genre, the medium is.
Yeah,
It's just a medium. It's no different to a TV show. It's no different to a movie.
yeah,
It's just a medium. There are good movies, there are horrible movies. There are good TV shows, there are horrible TV shows.
yeah,
So understand that it's just a medium of conveying a message or conveying a story. Now that if
yeah,
you understand what the medium is, you are not trying to sell the medium. So it that's and what you're trying to sell is you're trying to sell your story. So
yeah,
for example, it's much easier to convince a somebody who likes sci-fi to consider your sci-fi graphic novel than it is to consider someone who reads comics to buy your sci-fi thing. Mainly because someone who buys comics might be interested in superheroes, for example.
yeah,
And if they are, yours is a hard sci-fi. You don't have any
yeah,
superheroes in it. The translation isn't there. Understand, and that's where it goes back to the audience.
yeah,
Understand the audience you're marketing to.
exactly.
So now you're saying, oh gosh, I'll only talk to other people who are interested in comics. Oh God, you've wasted an entire uh, audience that are people who might be interested in what you're writing, excluding the medium.
Yeah,
So imagine if it was a TV show, you would be telling them, hey, you gotta watch this, this new sci-fi thing, brilliant.
yeah,
Why are you telling somebody who's interested in sci-fi? You assume they watch TV. Now with comics, it seems to be this weird preconception that it's a
it's for
different
kids.
medium.
Or it's for kids.
Uh,
Comics are for
oh
kids or
for
teenagers, only.
yeah, and I actually do like that. I think for the best part of it, it's actually moved away from that quite a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah.
I'm really happy it's actually moved away from
And
that
I've
quite a
got a
lot.
great story. You reminded me, Stephen, of a story like
Yeah.
of selling my comics. And like, for instance, I would take my comic book series, Luminous Ages, to Comic Con. And when I first started selling, I'd be like, do you like comics? I'd reach it like, as people coming past, do you like comics? Oh, yeah, I love comics. And you show them the comic and then tell them what it's about. And they're like, nah, it's not my thing. And I'm like, and I realized I was qualifying wrong and asking the wrong question. It's like, I should have been saying, do you love fantasy?
Correct.
And as soon as I said fantasy and I said dragons in the story, people their eyes lit up and I'm like, oh, show me, show me, show me, and sales conversion increased. And it goes back to audience as well, right? So Comic Con, yes, a lot of people buy my comics at Comic Con, right? But I've now narrowed down my audience because I'm a fantasy artist and I do fantasy comics, right?
Mhm,
I'm like, well, I'm going to go to Ren fairs, medieval fairs. And what was
mhm.
crazy is I know automatically all those people, majority of those people love fantasy or they love historical reenactment. But if you go to a medieval fair and you don't like dragons, there's something wrong with you, right?
Of course. And that's the thing is, like you said, you're reaching an audience which isn't bound by the medium.
That's
So you're
it.
not saying you gotta find comic fans because I don't want comic fans. I want fans of
You
the
love
story.
fantasy, yeah. People that love fantasy or people that love that sort of genre, exactly.
Correct.
So yeah,
And I look, this is the part I do badly, and I really admit I do badly. Um, I I have a mailing list which I built up, and I've seen people who do it really, really well. Not going to drop any names, but there's some people who do it amazingly. Um, Newsletters and mailing lists, keeping your audience engaged with you as the creator. So what I do as well is I do semi-regular streams again with different people. I do one every Sunday night as well. But what it tends to do is it people can connect with you in a way, and I
mm,
think that's actually more important than anything else because as a small creator, you're not just pitching your story and all the rest of it. Half of it is yourself as well, and
Mm-hmm.
that's one part that in terms of this whole journey, that I still haven't quite got my head around. Because look, I'm happy to talk, happy to chat, but in most cases, is I feel a bit. It's not something people always feel automatically comfortable doing.
Yeah.
But half the point is if people can connect with you, they can at least understand your story from a different perspective. And it's two
Yeah.
ways. Number one, they'll hopefully they'll be back to support you, and they, like you can see, I actually jump genres quite a bit. I've got a pure fantasy book in Wolf Cubs. I've got slice of life stories. I've even got a cat story, cat and dog story. You know what I mean? It does jump genres quite a bit. But what I hope is that if they like my work and they able to see me as a creator, like as a person, they might go, you know what? I'll give this book a go, because, and I'll give you how that's been established too, and it's changed a lot. If you go back to the 80s, the best era of all time, by the way, the 80s. 80s action movies. You didn't care about what the movie was.
Mm.
You watched it because Arnie was in it.
Yeah.
You watched it because Sylvester Stallone was in it. I know movies have flex changed a bit, that it's much more story and character driven. Like I'll use again MCU as the
Yeah. Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
You watch it because of Iron Man. You don't watch it because of Robert Downey Jr. Although Robert Downey Jr. does an amazing job as Iron Man, it's Iron Man that you're interested in. Now, if you went back to the 80s, they had very few sequels and very few tie-ins. You watched it because this is the next Stallone movie. This is the next Arnie movie. And every year you get one, this is the next Dolph Lundgren movie or whatever it is. And it was, to be really fair, and I'm going to pick on somebody, Steven Seagal.
Yeah.
Um, all his damn movies are all exactly the same.
Yeah.
I watched some of it. It's him being the guy who's unnoticed. Something happens, and he has to come as the unnoticed guy to come and save the day.
Yeah.
I'll use even the example of Die Hard and stuff like, or the whole Bruce before the sequels came. The sequels came after, down the track a bit, but a lot of these were just you were watching it because of that actor, and you will say, and I remember uh, back then, you didn't talk about the movie because I want to watch the next Arnie movie. What is it? I
Mm.
don't know. What do I care? Arnie's in it. I'm going to watch it. And I think that's where, as a creator as well, if you can be shown that your work is people enjoy, what you want is, oh, it's the next Antonius book.
That's
You know
it.
what? Not
That's
sure
it.
what it is. I want to give it a go.
That's
And
it.
that's where, and to reach that point as a creator is, and again, I fully confess, is something I need to do better. Engagement, email list, regular emails, regular follow-ups, um, getting to know, so people actually understand your thought processes, things. And there are two creators who I know do it so well, and they are absolute mega star creators. And I'm
Mm.
on both their mailing list. And to be fair, I actually do enjoy when their newsletter comes in, because
Yeah.
I'll read and go, and the newsletter isn't just a, and the thing is, like I said, there has to be that call to action, but it doesn't always have to be in your face call to action. Facebook posts and stuff have done it such a way that you don't have much space, and you got to get to that call to action really quickly. And people understand that. A Twitter
Mm.
post, you got this many words. So it's like,
Yeah.
this is good, click link, be good, boom. It
Yeah.
has to be that. An email list is so much more personal. And again, I do have my own website, which I do write as well, but it's so much more personal. You could, in the email, you could ramble on five, six
Well,
pages
just a quick
and use
one.
that.
Sorry to interrupt again. I
That's
love
okay.
everything you're saying, just because we've got to be aware of the time. But
That's fine.
what is like? What would you say is the number one or two way that you're driving people to your Kickstarter or your newsletter? What would be the two areas where you post a lot? Is it like more Facebook? Is it you talked about your website? Have you got a blog, or what are
Yep.
the two things that you think are Like, if you don't want to give up that information because it's
Oh,
secret,
no, no, no.
whatever.
Nothing is, it's not secret source stuff.
Wait.
Uh,
YouTube,
yeah,
the secret tip on how to raise $250,000 in comics. Stephen
no.
got the secret answer. Now go on.
If anybody says that to you, they're lying
Yeah,
because
I know.
as
I'm just
all
joking around.
I know. All marketing is hard work, and
Exactly. Yeah.
if I, whatever I tell you now, it's effort.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. One of my Kickstarters, I before it launched had 600 followers on it, and people was going 600. That's huge. How do you get it to it? I'll tell them, and I absolutely tell them the secret. It's been on pre-launch for more than a year, and
Wow.
I have a, and they'll go, oh,
Wow.
okay. So does that make a difference? Say, hell, it makes a difference because I
Crazy.
have an internal target of trying to get 2 new followers every day. And
Wow.
you might think that's actually not that hard to do.
No, it's
If
not.
you think of, now you then you start to break it down, and this is all the whole secret sauce stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
It's you start to break it down. Okay, I need to get 2 new followers every day. What actions do I need to reach these 2 new people?
Yeah.
What that means
Yeah,
is
yeah.
if you're going to the same Facebook group and doing it every single day, the same thing, you're not going to reach that
No,
2 new people.
no.
So what it then forces you to do is, and Facebook, I admit, is a fantastic ecosystem. But
Yeah.
what Facebook allows you to do, it allows you to connect with people outside of where you usually connect to. So, good example, if you're writing a horror graphic novel, maybe start talking to people in horror movie groups.
Yeah.
And then you start, and the thing is, and you go, okay, I posted there, they shot me down, whatever. That's the wrong approach because if you just post something, here's the link, check it out in a horror movie group. Guess what? You haven't engaged with a single person in that group. They
Mm.
don't know you from a bar of soap. And that's where you come back to the original thing. They have to understand you as a creator as well. Talk to them about their favorite horror movies. Understand how that group works. And once you understand how that group works, then you can go, hey, no, couple of you, if you like, I know you like the Scream movie series. I've got a slasher
Exactly.
graphic novel. Would you consider it?
Yeah.
Now, you now think about it this way. Now do that 250 days in a row. I'm talking weekdays because I'm assuming
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I'm giving you the weekends off. So I'm being
Thank you.
nice here for
Thank
people
you.
who are
Thank
marketing.
you.
Take the weekends off. But 250 work days a year. Now you think about it. If in those 250 work days, you do 2 or 3 actions that expands that across. Yeah, again, that's why I'm not talking very much uh, social media perspective, whether you use Instagram or whatever, it doesn't really matter. As
Yeah.
long as you in each of and the thing is, look, I'm rubbish on Twitter. I
Yeah.
find what happens with Twitter, people get into arguments or because it's a much shorter, you tend to be misread and
Yeah.
misunderstood.
Yeah.
I tend to find that happens. So Twitter, I tend to stay a little bit away from.
I'm the same.
Again,
I'm the same at the moment. Yeah.
absolutely personal. If you know how to run Twitter, man, please reach out to me. I want to learn. I want to learn how to do it properly. But understand that it doesn't really matter what platform you go to. It's that 1 or 2 actions that grows into the group. Now, if you ask me what the secret sauce is for these things, I don't have the answer for you particularly.
That's
Now,
exactly right.
and it sounds like, oh, he's hiding something. I'm not really hiding something, mainly because I don't have two things, two, that only you have. Number one, the first thing is I don't have the passion for your book, and
That's exactly right.
that's up to you to have. If somebody comes to me to ask me what what's Wordsmith about, why is it important to you? Oh man, sit down, and 4 hours later, I'll let you walk away from me. You know,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't have that.
and this is the thing. I think marketing it yourself is very different to hiring. Like, I've actually had over COVID, I hired a marketing agency to help me market my art and my comics. I basically raised a bit of money, and I thought I'm going to use that as a test. And I had some success with getting
Yeah,
commissions and all that. But what my biggest books and my biggest projects, I marketed it with my fans. Like, I literally had some people that were so passionate about the Baise, the Baisa,
Yeah.
People that were so passionate about the Dragon Dice, my Dice and my Buys A book. I basically did all the marketing myself, and I like even when I hired a marketing agency, even on the Buys A Gillop, they pulled out after a week, not because I did anything wrong, but they're like, "We can't help you. You're the best person to do this." And
Exactly.
and the reality is it's not about being rude. It's about more. I'm not saying you can't hire someone, but the sort of people I hire and work with for marketing are people that work with me. So they might turn around and say to me, look, you go to medieval fairs or discover like who is your avatar, who are your main client base, who's your audience, and you really need to, if you're going to hire anyone in marketing or you're going to do the marketing, there is so much you can't just go, I'm going to create a comic unless you go to the main publishers, right, and they do it for you. That's a different story. But if you're an independent
Even the
like
main
us,
publishers, even
yeah,
the main publishers now, and I've talked to quite a few different publishers and whatever,
yeah,
it is very different now. Most big publishers, unless you're, look, I'll give you a bit of depressing news. The average author gets paid about $30,000. This is a published author. He
wow.
earns about $30,000 every year.
How many books do they have to make a year for that? One or two books?
Oh, um, usually about two or three, and
Wow,
they and
a lot
the
of work.
look at exactly, and you gotta admit, for it's the same with most creative fields as well, which again, I suppose is a bit depressing. But if you look at um, for every Chris Hemsworth,
Yeah,
there are 1,000 people who are still having second jobs so that they can follow their acting career.
yeah, exactly.
For every J.K. Rowling, there are 10,000 published authors who are basically on a second job. Every Stephen King, there's another 10,000 authors who
Yeah,
nothing ever happens to them. So there is that dichotomy of people who actually do it. Now, saying that, even publishers now and will not fund much marketing for you. They will not. They basically say to you, I will give you the book, I will cover printing, you need to sell it. And you go to, if you're pitching to any publisher now, and I don't know if you had recently, what's your Facebook page? How many likes it? How many followers do you have on Twitter?
yeah.
Oh, a small thing.
I won't say names of clients, but
Oh no.
but like
Yeah.
even in the art world, if you want to work for big art studios, like a big games company, I won't say the one is a lot
Yep.
of wizards involved in this company,
Yeah.
but they do look at your social medias and they go, oh, has this
100%.
got, and it's upsetting because it's not about quality, it's about audience. But
Correct.
if you
100%.
if you twist it around and you say, how can I grow my audience? How can I make this better?
Yeah.
Then the power comes back in your hands.
Exactly. And how to
But
grow those things
oh
are,
yeah,
it's engagement. 100% is engagement because um, it's like I said, you post things up, but, and again, I admit I'm really bad at this, but it will build if you engage and you tell your journey.
of
Like
course.
I know I follow a whole bunch of artists as well, not because I have to say their work is the absolute best, but because I actually do enjoy reading about them. I do
Yeah,
enjoy their next things. And when you read, oh, I got this is my next gig, here's what I'm doing, here's some sketches.
yeah,
I love it. I absolutely love it. And because what it does is, number one, the person's real. And like I said, the two things is, I don't know your product. And the
yeah,
second thing is, I'm not you.
yeah,
I can't, and the thing is, I can't be either. I cannot be you, and I cannot, it's not my story. Now,
yeah,
if you take those two things away, you need to push that through. Again, even if you push the big publishers, and I do wish anybody who listens, if you ever get the big deal, absolutely congratulations to you and all the best to you. Saying that though, you need to market before you reach that
yeah,
stage. I'll last example of it, Marvel Comics. You cannot apply to them. They won't even take applications. How and then you go, how do I become a Marvel artist? You become big enough that they notice you and they hire you.
exactly right.
There
And
was
that's exactly what happened when I went to New York Comic Con. That's
yeah,
exactly what I was saying. And
exactly. Like there's one artist who I absolutely love, Peach Momoko, I think. I butchered her name. I'm really sorry. Um, I love the art, and what happened was she started building this huge fan base, and I do regret I didn't have enough money to buy a commission from her when she was just starting out. But I actually was watching her career build. As it built and people get to like them, guess what? Marvel knocked the door. Would you like to do a variant cover? That variant cover became one of, you know how comics, certain variant covers become hot and all the rest of it?
Yeah.
That one actually was brilliant and it became one of the hot covers. Suddenly she became one of the hot artists and
Wow.
all power to her. She absolutely deserves it. But saying that though, it's not because of her, just because of her quality of work, which was excellent. It's also because she built the fan. She engaged. She started
Yeah.
building all this. And I know people want to hear if you do A, B, and C, um, once it's done, silver bullet, you get 50,000
That's it.
fans. It's not. It's two or three things you do every day, every time, and consistently. And that's what builds your fan base. That's what builds your audience. And I'm really, really sorry to people who are listening, hoping for that. Listen to this video and get 5,000 fans in 1 hour. Doesn't happen. And even if it did, and I will caution one thing: there are some things that are going around, and was very popular way back when, but not so popular now. List builders. So what some people used to do was they used to say, let's say your fantasy art, you might decide to buy a huge Lord of the Rings Lego set,
Mhm.
Lord of the Rings DVD.
Yeah, yeah,
You offer that as a prize, and you go, well, if you want to be in for this
yeah.
prize, you have to give your email address, and you have to accept that you're going to receive emails from me. So that's the two conditions, and we'll pick a winner, and you get this giant Lego set or giant things. The problems with those things is sure they might get you a few fans, but the engagement is horrible
That's
because
it.
they are in there to win these things. And look, to be fair, if it probably will net you a good mailing list builder will probably net you about 4 or 5,000 emails. And if
Yeah,
you think about out of that, if you get 10 or 20 or 30 real customers out of it, is it worth your while? It might be. Don't get me wrong, it might be worth your while, but you crunch the numbers to make it worth your sense. But you might get these 4,000 emails or 10,000 emails, but they haven't come organically. So you're just going, they're probably thinking, oh, damn it, I didn't win the prize. I did promise to stay on this guy's mailing
yeah.
list. I'll stay on until I can hit the unsubscribe button.
That's it.
You know what I mean? And you're
Well,
just going, and any shortcuts, and that's probably the main thing I was going to say, any shortcuts that you do to build your mailing list or build up your audience will tend to backfire on you because
yeah.
it's not real
Genuine.
growth.
It's not genuine. It's not genuine.
Exactly.
I agree with everything that you say. It's about you can grow your audience. You can have a hit Kickstarters. It's about growth. It's about small action every day, leading
That's
to
it.
a big momentum. So, look, I want to thank you. Stephen has a Kickstarter. I think it might still be live when we post this. You can tell us. We can put the link in the YouTube as well. We will do that for you.
That would be awesome.
And I'm going to put pictures up in this video, so it won't just be our beautiful faces. It'll also be there's some nice stills in there as well, as you've seen. But thank you so much for coming on and sharing your knowledge. And I really appreciate it. You can tell us, we've got like, I think 3 minutes. Tell us a little bit about the link and what are you most grateful for today? It can be just a quick thing. I love to practice gratitude every day. What are you
Oh,
most grateful for today? And what's your Kickstarter that you've got?
it sounds really funny, but the fuel gauge on my car broke a couple of days ago, so I had no idea how much fuel I had, and it got fixed today, and I was so happy because I can.
Right.
And by the way, I'm close to empty now, so I'm gonna go fill it up. But look, for me, I actually love the whole gratitude thing because there's so many things in life that it's you don't know how happy you should really be, and it's sometimes you get lost in a lot of things that you go, you know what, things aren't so bad.
That's it.
um in terms of my work, look, thank you so much. Transhuman is actually a whole thing about, and going back to the sci-fi angle, it's transhuman is basically the whole idea of if you keep replacing the human body with cybernetic parts, at what point what constitutes humanity. If
Oh,
everything
wow.
can be replaced,
Wow.
what
I
what
love it.
is your humanity? So the first series was basically this ex-soldier. She loses her arm, her eye, but it's really about her story. She's going through a divorce. It's she's messed up, but you find that the parts that she has that she's changed, it does all these wonderful things, but uh, how does it fix up her marriage?
Yeah.
Doesn't really. And it delves a little bit into that. There's a whole, and I do try to make it look, it is a bit more adult graphic novel because I do talk a little bit about religion and humanity and things like that. But what I try to do is, if you do get to read it, it's very much, I try to tell it from a human perspective. So it's not, this is right, this is wrong. I'm trying to show it how this affects different people. And then you decide which is right, which is wrong.
Yeah.
And that's why I do hope you check it out. And thank you for putting the links in the comments
Yeah,
below.
no problem. Thank you for coming on and on the being the first creator, and you have a wealth of knowledge. And yeah, again, thank you. And I'm sure we'll talk in the future. You're an amazing creator, and yeah, I wish you all the best with it, man. I'm sure it'll be viral by the time we've posted this video, so you won't need any of my followers. So, and
Oh, but look, thank you. Look, and the thing
that's
is,
right.
please do read the story. Like everything I do is the story is the key. And if the
That's it.
story entices you, thank you so much. And I really appreciate any support.
No
So,
worries. We'll
or
do.
even share the link around, audience. That helps me too.
I
Thank you
will.
so
No
much.
problem, mate. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Cheers.
Okay. Bye.